Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, so I want you to just picture the sheer massive volume of data that astronomers have to sift through every single day. We are talking about petabytes of information constantly pouring in from radio telescopes all over the world, just scanning the silent void of space. I mean, researchers spend their entire careers looking for the faintest anomalies, these tiny little whispers hidden in the static. Now, imagine waking up one morning to find all that data completely overwhelmed by a bizarre, unnaturally strong repeating signal. Scientists were immediately baffled. Amateur radio operators were frantically recording the sounds, running algorithms, just desperately trying to make sense of the noise. The astronomical community essentially stopped dead in its tracks, caught in the grip of a massive, unprecedented puzzle that seemed to defy all established physics. So today, we're unpacking one of the most fascinating scientific detective stories of our time. It's a narrative that begins in the vast, unfathomable depths of the cosmos and ends somewhere much, much closer to home.
Right, let's dive into this. What if the biggest mystery in space wasn't actually in space at all? It's a premise that sounds, well, like it totally belongs in a sprawling science fiction novel rather than a peer-reviewed astrophysics journal, right? But for a highly intense period of time, this was the exact stressful reality that researchers were dealing with. They were detecting something so anomalous and honestly so shockingly powerful that it completely upended their understanding of the universe. The fundamental laws governing radio emissions from deep space literally seemed to be breaking down in real time. To understand how they eventually solved this, we really have to look at how humanity, even the absolute most rational among us, reacts when faced with the utterly unexplained.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it perfectly captures that reaction. Because when scientists can't immediately identify an anomaly of this magnitude, you better believe the internet is going to eagerly fill in the blanks. Almost overnight, the sheer scale of panic and speculation surrounding these signals was just staggering. For weeks, nobody actually knew the truth, and that vacuum of empirical data created the absolute perfect breeding ground for wild theories. Some people claimed with total certainty that this was first contact, like an advanced alien civilization utilizing vast amounts of energy to reach out across the interstellar void. Others were absolutely convinced it was a highly classified, incredibly dangerous secret military weapon being tested in the shadows. The sheer lack of answers meant that human imagination simply rushed in to explain the impossible. Okay, let's ground ourselves in the actual science of what was happening here. As you can see by the definition on screen, the phenomenon we're talking about is known as a fast radio burst, or FRB. And this wasn't some glitch in a sci-fi movie, it was a terrifyingly real data point. The story truly begins back in 2007, when astronomers in Australia detected these incredibly powerful bursts of radio energy. And guys, they were completely unlike anything the scientific community had ever observed in the entire history of radio astronomy. We're talking about a signal that lasts for just a few tiny milliseconds, literally the blink of an eye. Yet in that microscopic fraction of time, it releases an absolutely staggering, enormous amount of energy. To put that into perspective, it's equivalent to the amount of energy our own sun produces over an entire decade in 1 millisecond. And this brings us to the core of the cosmic puzzle. It is so easy to see why this drove researchers absolutely crazy. Astronomers were effectively flying blind here. First off, these fast radio bursts appeared completely without warning. There was no buildup, no preliminary radiation, no predictive models that could anticipate them. Second, they disappeared instantly. Boom, gone. By the time a massive telescope detected the burst and actually alerted the team, the signal was already completely finished, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint its precise origin galaxy. Third, the enormous energy they released meant whatever was creating them had to be an unimaginably powerful cosmic engine. Because of this extreme unpredictability, the mystery evolved into one of the biggest puzzles in modern astronomy. Every single new detection just poured more fuel on the fire and sparked even more theories of hidden cosmic technology. Let's move to and see how this builds across our timeline. Following that initial shock in 2007, weeks turned into massive global confusion. More data trickled in, but the answers, they completely failed to materialize. Observatories all around the world were recalibrating their instruments, just desperately hoping to catch another glimpse of these elusive bursts. But then, a distinct pattern emerged that changed the entire trajectory of the investigation. Scientists at one specific observatory kept detecting these unusual radio bursts, building up this highly unusual dataset. As they mapped out the frequency and the timing of the detections, they realized the signals weren't randomly distributed across the night sky like you'd expect from a distant galaxy. Instead, they seemed to cluster around a very specific, terrestrial time of day, lunchtime. Which leads us to an incredibly perplexing clue. I mean, think about it. Why would a mysterious signal, supposedly traveling across billions of light years of deep, expanding space, arrive at an Earth observatory only during the day? And not just during the day, but right around lunch. The timing made absolutely zero sense from any logical astrophysical perspective. Pulsars, quasars, and distant galaxies do not care about Earth's arbitrary time zones, and they certainly don't align their catastrophic energy releases with our local meal schedules. This bizarre anomaly, this jarring collision between cosmic phenomena and the human lunch hour, forced the scientists to completely halt their deep space search. They had to pivot and launch a highly careful, targeted investigation into their own localized data. So after an exhaustive, meticulous search for a cosmic source, poring over every single line of code and hardware calibration, the final answer shocked everyone. Not because it was an extraordinary galactic event that rewrote the laws of physics. No, it was the microwave. That's right. The highly mysterious, world-stopping bursts of astronomical energy, the exact phenomena that had spawned 1,000 alien conspiracy theories, were not coming from deep space at all. They were coming directly from the observatory's very own staff kitchen. And this brilliantly illustrates how human error can sneak into even the most rigorous science. You know, the actual sequence of events that managed to completely fool some of these smartest, most highly trained analytical minds on the planet is just delightfully mundane. Step 1, a hungry staff member goes to heat up their food in the observatory kitchen. Step 2, they're impatient, maybe in a rush to get back to their complex calculations, so they pop open the microwave door just a split second before the digital timer has completely finished. Step 3, that tiny, seemingly harmless physical action allows a brief, microscopic burst of unshielded radio waves to leak out into the room. And finally, step 4, the observatory's massive, highly sensitive telescopes, equipment that is painstakingly designed to detect the faintest possible whispers from the very edge of the observable universe, pick up this localized terrestrial microwave leak and mistakenly record it as a massive, mysterious cosmic signal. Years of intense global scientific confusion, all entirely caused by impatient snacking. No way, right? But here is where the story takes an incredible, highly satisfying twist. As you'll see on the screen, just when you think this entire saga is nothing more than an embarrassing cautionary tale, science steps back in. The conclusion of this kitchen mystery was not the end of fast radio bursts. By precisely identifying the specific frequency and profile of that local microwave leak, scientists were finally able to effectively clean up their data. They successfully separated the fake signals, the premature microwave openings, from the rest of the noise. And once that terrestrial interference was fully filtered out, astronomers confirmed something absolutely astonishing. Genuine fast radio bursts actually do exist. The universe is, in fact, producing massive, millisecond energy bursts from extremely powerful distant galaxies. So what is actually causing the real ones? Well, today, researchers believe that many of these genuine FRBs are created by something called a magnetar. And a magnetar is a highly magnetized neutron star. To put that into perspective, these are the incredibly dense, collapsed, dead cores of massive stars that have violently gone supernova. Their magnetic fields are trillions, actually, scratch that, sometimes quadrillions of times stronger than Earth's magnetic field. They are without a doubt some of the most extreme, mind-bending objects in the known universe. When the crust of a magnetar shifts or cracks, it releases an unfathomable amount of radiation, which is fully capable of generating the genuine, immensely powerful fast radio bursts that we detect across the cosmos. So the actual reality of what's out there in the dark is just as terrifying and wild as those initial alien theories suggested. So, the crucial point is that those fake microwave signals ultimately taught the scientific community a vital, humbling lesson. As the quote says, "Before accepting an extraordinary explanation, first eliminate the ordinary ones." This isn't just some quirky anecdote about radio astronomy. It's practically a fundamental pillar of critical thinking and the scientific method itself. When faced with the vast unknown, our human brains naturally want to leap to the most sensational conclusion, right? To aliens or secret government weapons or completely impossible physics. But sometimes the greatest mystery isn't solved by discovering something physically impossible out in the void. Sometimes it's solved by simply noticing the mundane, everyday microwave sitting right in the room next door. While the mystery of the lunchtime signals was definitively solved over a plate of reheated food, the true wonders of the universe remain vast and largely unexplored. By eliminating the ordinary distraction of our own making, researchers cleared the way to see the genuine cosmos much, much more clearly. Somewhere out there, billions of light years away, wildly spinning magnetars are releasing bursts of unimaginable energy right this very second. The real cosmic signals are still arriving, they're still washing over our planet, waiting to tell us their ancient story. We just have to make sure our microwaves are shut tight before we listen. But it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Now that our data is clean and our instruments are laser-focused, what other quiet, cosmic whispers are we finally about to hear?